I'm Ralph from Skullcrush Inc. Today I'm talking about a gun that doesn't get a whole lot of attention anymore, the Glock 31 chambered in .357 SIG. I recently picked this one up not only because I wanted to shoot it, but because I think it tells an interesting story. The Glock 31 first appeared in 1998 as the world's first polymer-framed pistol built specifically around the new .357 SIG cartridge. SIG already had a metal-framed P229 for this caliber sometime around 1994. Glock offered law enforcement shooters a potent round and a lightweight platform. A decade later, Glock introduced the Gen 4 upgrade to this model, incorporating ergonomic and performance refinements. The Gen 4 added interchangeable backstraps, a larger magazine release, and a dual recoil spring to help tame the recoil of the .357 SIG round. These updates enhanced Glock's already proven safe action system and dependable design, turning the Glock 31 Gen 4 into a solid performer chambered in a powerful cartridge. The .357 SIG itself has an interesting backstory. Introduced in 1994 by SIG Sauer in partnership with Federal Premium Ammunition, it was created to replicate the .357 Magnum revolver performance in a semi-automatic pistol. At the time, some law enforcement agencies believed 9mm pistols lacked stopping power. SIG's answer was to basically neck down a .40 Smith & Wesson case to a 9mm caliber. The resulting round, .357 SIG, can push a 125-grain hollow point bullet at around 1,400 feet per second from a typical pistol. For example, tests with a Glock 31 and a 125-grain Spear Gold Dot jacketed hollow point average roughly 1,390 feet per second at the muzzle. By comparison, a typical 124-grain 9mm jacketed hollow point out of a similar barrel might be around 1,150 feet per second. That difference translates to roughly 510 pounds of muzzle energy for the .357 SIG versus 360 pounds for the 9mm, giving the SIG round a significant ballistic edge. In practical terms, FBI gelatin tests have shown both rounds penetrate to the FBI's good range of 13 to 18 inches, but the wound channel differs. The .357 SIG round typically creates a noticeably larger temporary wound cavity in ballistic gel, meaning it could transfer energy very quickly into a target. These ballistics gave the .357 SIG its reputation as a flat shooting duty round with high muzzle energy. Initially, Glock's .357 SIG pistols carved out a niche. The full-size G31, compact G32, and subcompact G33 allowed shooters to carry a high-velocity round in various sizes. However, by the 2020s, demand started to lag. On April 28, 2025, Glock quietly updated its website with a discontinued models page. Every Glock chambered in .357 SIG was discontinued. The 31, 32, and 33, in Gen 3 and in Gen 4 all appeared on that list. In Glock's words, this was part of streamlining our portfolio for a stronger future. Glock ceased production of its .357 SIG pistols overnight. Today, neither SIG or Glock sells a new .357 SIG duty pistol. Even SIG Sauer's classic P229 and .357 SIG is regulated to legacy status. SIG lists it only under the discontinued models. Several factors drove the .357 SIG's exit. First, its advantage over 9mm diminished as 9mm bullet technology improved. Some claim that a high-quality 9mm plus P load could nearly match the old .357 SIG numbers with less recoil. What they fail to realize is .357 SIG bullet technology also improved. Meanwhile, .357 SIG ammunition remained much more expensive and harder to find. Shooting or training in .357 SIG sometimes requires hunting down ammo in a few different places, whereas 9mm is stocked everywhere at low cost, or at least relatively low cost compared to .357 SIG. Nowadays, everything's expensive. Departments and individuals realized they could carry more rounds and stay within their budget with 9mm. Another point that may have hurt .357 SIG demand is compatibility. The .357 SIG uses the same casehead and magazines as the .40 Smith & Wesson. This meant Glock's .40 caliber pistols like the 22, 23, and 27 could easily be converted to .357 SIG by swapping barrels. Some simply installed a .357 SIG barrel on the Glock 22 and 23 and shot SIG rounds through the existing magazines and frame. In other words, anyone truly needing extra velocity could get it without buying a separate Glock 31 pistol. This conversion convenience made the dedicated .357 SIG models even less popular. Faced with limited sales, Glock evidently decided to allocate resources elsewhere. Glock clearly shifted focus toward more popular models, phasing out their .357 SIG lineup in the process. The .357 SIG's decline mirrors other recent trends. Consider .40 Smith & Wesson. Introduced in 1990 and once popular in law enforcement, it too was largely abandoned in the 2010s as agencies returned to 9mm for its better capacity, lower recoil, and cheaper ammo. Glock's discontinued list confirms this shift. All Gen 3 and Gen 4 40 caliber pistols like the 22 and 23, etc. were also cut. Other oddball rounds met similar ends. Glock offered a 45 gap series, which was the 37 and 39, and a short-barreled 380 ACP, which was a Glock 42, but those are gone too. In short, the market is consolidated around a few core rounds. 9mm is king because it balances power, low recoil, and capacity. Calibers that only offered incremental benefits like 357 SIG and 40 Smith & Wesson lost out when the downsides outweighed the advantages. Manufacturers and agencies simply said 9mm can do almost everything and it's cheaper, and moved on. The Glock 31's retirement illustrates this pattern. A technically capable pistol will still be retired if shooters decide they want something else. I personally don't agree with any of this 9mm logic. I carry 9mm pistols and I know they work and all that, but I truly believe that the 357 SIG is a superior cartridge in just about every way. It just sucks that it costs so much, and I think the cost is the real killer of this cartridge. Given all this, the 357 SIG's future seems limited. With Glock and SIG out of the new gun market for the 357 SIG, the cartridge now lives on mainly legacy guns and specialized loads. Ammunition makers still produce some 357 SIG, and handloaders may craft hotter rounds, but it's pretty much a small niche now. Some private firms and militias still might appreciate the 357 SIG's flat trajectory in certain roles, but broadly it will be overshadowed by 9mm. In essence, the 357 SIG is now a specialized tool. It's not completely dead, but it's on life support. Many of the old SIG pistols will remain in circulation for years, and Glocks tend to run a very long time, and their owners can convert 40 caliber Glocks if needed. The ammunition won't disappear overnight either. Still, without any new major pistols in 357 SIG, its popularity will continue to decline. The only scenarios that could revive it would be a renewed tactical interest or a breakthrough in ammunition like a radically more effective bullet design, which currently seems unlikely. In firearms history, similar cases show that once a cartridge's backers move on, it quickly becomes a footnote. So if Glock has given up on the 357 SIG, what might they do next? Recent signals point to more 9mm innovation. At SHOT Show 2025, Glock launched new 9mm models equipped with factory optics in collaboration with Aimpoint. They also introduced new accessories like the Glock Tactical Light and expanded their performance triggers to more models. Notably, those announcements were all 9mm and accessory focused. There was no mention of any 357 SIG or exotic calibers. Glock seems to be doubling down on calibers that sell the most. Looking further ahead, Glock fans can only speculate. Glock has hinted at innovations like a possible carbine or a new striker-fired system. If Glock were to introduce a new pistol caliber, it would likely be a familiar one, perhaps an updated 45 ACP model or the next-gen 10mm, rather than another niche round. But nothing concrete is on the table publicly. For now, Glock's strategy seems to be to just focus on the 9mm market and streamline the lineup. The age of the 357 SIG in Glock's catalog is over, and whatever comes next will probably be built around whatever calibers have the biggest demand. The Glock 31 in Gen 3 and Gen 4, like the one you see in this video, will remain an interesting footnote in pistol history. It represents a time when designers chased maximum stopping power even as mainstream trends were shifting. Its discontinuation reminds us that even successful designs must give way if the market moves on. Today, the 357 SIG's role in new pistol design is probably finished. The Glock 31 was made for the 357 SIG, a round born out of a specific mission. But missions change. Glock has turned its attention to new priorities. The question isn't about the past, but about the future. What will Glock do next? If you found this video interesting, give me a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if there's any other guns you want reviewed. Thanks for watching.